It's Friday here on the Mead, Metal, and MMA podcast. Whew, walking in with a little bit of a surprise. We're going to be talking about a little bit later on some of the new releases that came out today. And one particular singer, I was not prepared. I'd need to do a little more research once in a while on seeing who has new stuff coming out today. But nonetheless, welcome to the Mead, Metal, and MMA podcast, where we talk about some of the various issues of the day involving three of our topics very near and dear to our hearts: Mead, Metal, and MMA. Along for the ride this evening is a mega groupie, Silke. Hello.
Hello.
You're way off the mic, and that's okay, because I'm not gonna. You asked me not to ask you a lot, so.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know a lot.
You said you don't know a lot, which I think you know a lot, probably just not about the stuff we talk about here.
Right.
So Silke's sitting in because, well, Brandon's up in the wilds of outer Wyoming, as we mentioned weekly here, and apparently they lost internet because apparently it turns out the wind does blow in Wyoming. So no internet access. So that means kind of puts it all on the backs of us down here to hump the load. Here for the out of our little spot here in the outer wilds of eastern New Mexico. So, how was your week? That's where we always start. Silke, how was your week?
My week was great. I'm glad it is over, though.
Yeah, well.
How about yours? I heard you had some encounter with a strange cat, an intruder.
No, I was talking about pussy. I was.
Oh.
No. It was I had a home invasion by a cat. There's a spot. I have a questionable spot of flooring in this house that I'm aware of is where a water heater went in, and kind of noticed that the previous water heater had kind of rotted the floor. Well, I'm putting in the new one here about 2 years ago. Matter of fact, I think it's like 2 years ago, right around now. Part of that flooring kind of gave way a little bit, and I said, you know what? This is something I'm going to mess with the next time around. If I try to take care of it right now, the whole thing's going to go. And I just got the new water heater in. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait until the next water heater comes along. Then I'm going to fix this flooring issue because I thought it's not that big a deal. And it's not. It's not like it's a hole all the way open to the body, down to the ground or anything like that. It's actually, and I got it supported up. I mean, for an idiot like myself, it's not actually a bad repair. I have it sitting on 2x4s that are propped up on a actually what looked to be like little metal beams that were there for a base. It all works out okay. But the problem is going to be, though, is that, next time it's time to pull this water heater out, the whole floor is going to go. And, the problem is, it doesn't go all the way to the ground, but it does go into the subfloor. And apparently, and I've got some outside cats around here, and I really like their work. They kill a lot of mice. Last year around this time, we were just getting inundated with mice all the time. But nonetheless, though, the handy thing about having cats around, you don't have to worry about the mice. But then you have to worry about, not mice getting in your house. Then you got to worry about apparently cats getting in your house. Had one that made its way in, scared the living shit out of the dog, scared the living shit out of the cat. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I thought, that's it. I'm just going to lock this cat into the utility room so it can't get out of here. It'll find its way back out, and all will be well. This was like, Monday night, Tuesday night, something like that. And on top of that, by the way, I will point out, I was on the hillbilly schnapps. Well, we like to call it NyQuil. So, but nonetheless, though, so I just kind of put it away for the evening, hoped that maybe the cat would find its way back out, and then I could just deal with it in the morning. Well, it turns out, no, the cat got out, somehow climbed under the door, up a gate, even though I had a lot of pressure on the gate, trying to keep it out. And the next morning, as it turns out, Miles the dachshund, who's apparently quite the warrior, decided this cat needed to go, and he had him pinned behind the couch. I'm trying to get him out of there. I think, okay, if I throw open the door, maybe the cat will run out. Nope, the cat runs deeper into the house, back to the master bath, and I have to clear the whole thing out. Long story short, finally got it out, but I was late to work for probably the first time in, I think, 6 years. So I'm just not late much, so. But nonetheless, though, that was my harrowing little encounter early in the week. Busted up a knuckle pretty good that I had to throw some super glue on to keep it from bleeding me out. But nonetheless, that was the rundown of my week. Real fun times there. All right, what do we have going on this week? Mead, Metal, MMA. Unless you wanted to get into some detail on your week, so.
I sure don't. Did the rest of your day get any better? after that morning?
Yeah, no, because my allergies have been horrible all week. I can't bend my fingers all that well, so that means no guitar playing. That's what I kind of do when I'm just goofing off.
Right.
It's been a shitty week, really. It really has. But it's Friday, and that's all things are good there. Oh well, other than that. So when Brandon and I went down to Austin, I think it's on podcast number 64, I want to say, or something like that. But when we went down to Austin, we went to this, my brother Daryl took us this ramen joint, you know. We're not talking ramen like the dried bullshit you eat when you're in college. We're talking about the real deal tonkatsu ramen. And I was quite taken with the place, I think, to put it mildly. To say I liked it is kind of an understatement.
I've never even heard of a place that just serves ramen soup.
Yeah, well... It's transcendent is what it is, I would say. But nonetheless, though, so I came back here thinking, well, the problem is going to be I'm going to want that. And you can't get your hands on shit like that around here unless you're willing to deal with the college food, you know, ramen version, which is not a good version at all.
Not even close.
No, unless you just like salt lick. It's good for if you're just like in the mood for salt. That's what ramen, you know, and the little styrofoam cups are good for. But so anyway, so I did a bunch of research online over the course of about a week and figured out what it is I need to do to try to reproduce this. And it might be racist of me, but I threw out every recipe that was not written by somebody with a Japanese surname. So
good.
Yeah, I didn't want somebody from I don't know from Warsaw, you know, with a recipe on mine, or somebody from Mexico City, you know, throwing up a ramen recipe online. I'm not going to say that it might be bad. I'm just going to say that unless it's really somebody I know that probably might be originally from the homeland, I'm not going to really go to the root of their recipe. So, so that I was busy making the broth over the course of about 18 hours. That was what I want to say Wednesday. I did the pork belly, which is the chashu, is what they call it. I did that last night. That was about another 4 hours on that, and then on top of that, hours to cool down. I'm going to be doing the marinade for the ajitsuke. That's the soft-boiled eggs. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a process.
Well, yeah. I mean, and it involves pig's feet. Don't forget that.
Oh well, that's the whole thing with the broth. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's a very in-depth, very porky, very marrow kind of base broth. That's what it is, and that's what tonkatsu ramen is.
It's gonna be authentic.
Yeah,
That's
so we're
sure.
So that's what we're doing for dinner tomorrow night.
Right.
And thankfully, and by the way, they're not an official sponsor of the podcast, but there is like a little Asian market that I really would like to make them a sponsor of the podcast because they had everything I was looking for. And then some. I mean, you can't find pork belly. I live in an area that's not really easy to find things that you need to make good recipes with. But hey, lo and behold, yeah, they had slab upon slab of pork belly up there ready to go. I was able to find, I mean, you can find mirin probably in like bigger Walmarts and stuff like that. I was actually able to find a very good miso that was also going to be going into the recipe. I was able to find some of the nori, that's seaweed wrap. Again, you can probably find that in a lot of gourmet aisles at bigger supermarkets. But a lot of the little things that I was looking for, they had it, and therefore it's going to be, I think it's going to be a really good thing. Even if it turns out tasting like shit, which I hope it doesn't, but it was just the challenge. That's the thing. I get challenged, but some people like to do crossword puzzles. Some people like to I don't know, make fun of children on the streets or something like that. I like to cook things in the kitchen that are a very big challenge that take days. So, and that's what I had with that.
And it is a really neat store. I mean, and the lady was very helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing.
She was a little put out that I knew more about Japanese cooking than she did, but that's that's all right. That's how it goes. That's how I roll. Yeah. But nonetheless, what are you drinking tonight?
I am having.
You don't even remember. You're cut off.
No, I know. What do you call it? It's a Russian.
Oh, the White Russian.
It's a White Russian. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a White Russian. I'm having milk. I got my nutrients in there. So
the Big Lebowski would be proud. All right.
That's right.
I'm just doing the Budweiser and Bullet Rye, as we often do. Okay, over to the Mead, Metal, and MMA part of the podcast. To the Mead side, Longships, I cracked open some of that. I refuse to spend the amount of money that they require for sake around here. Because that's actually kind of a component that went into the pork belly side of it. I thought, what better way to go ahead and showcase, because I know that mead and pork go together very well. So instead of buying an entire bottle just for a cup of sake, I opened a bottle of Longships, used that. Probably might be a little bit sweeter, a little bit oakier, but nonetheless, though, it was just a marinade, or actually, it was just a braise, actually, a braising liquid. So it'll work out okay. I don't think it's going to change anything, but that's really the update I've got for Longships. We've got some for our loyal donors out there, the one who fight the good fight, stay with us on this, and as we'll be working on some more music here pretty soon. But nonetheless, though, Longships, that's the first application I've utilized and not getting loaded with it. So there's that. The other update, and that is on Troublemaker. We've got it still sitting here in a glass carboy, waiting to go. Before Brandon went to Wyoming, I had brought up the issue with him. I said, are you wanting to rack this right before you go? And then that way we have it clarified. Or we could have went ahead and bottled it right then before he left. I think in the end we decided to go ahead and punt and just go ahead and keep it in this glass carboy for now. However, Silke and I are going to be moving that probably next weekend. Would probably be good, and then we'll move that over. It'll clarify it a little bit more, and then we can kind of test out what's going on with it. So
that's right.
That one's our spiced one. So
okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. Now that's the Mead update for the week. Over to the metal update. I don't have a whole lot to go on outside of the fact that Tool, or actually I stand corrected, not Tool, A Perfect Circle, which is basically Tool. They've been cranking out. As it comes on in the background. That's crazy. A Perfect Circle, they've been putting out releasing a little bit of a new single here and a new single there in front of their new release coming out here probably, I would say, before May. And check out the new one today that dropped today. Brandon actually commented on it on social media, said that it's the prettiest thing that he's heard this year. So you might want to check that one out. Other new releases today, though, as far as full record releases go. Conjurer, their new one is out. I think we had actually discussed that one because they did put out a single back in January. We discussed that one a little bit. The new record is Meyer. I haven't had a chance to really listen to the whole thing. I wasn't even aware that it was getting released today. It got completely ignored. Aaron Lambert, he's like kind of he's an industry writer. I mean, he does a lot of like freelance stuff for Metal Injection, but he had put it out there on Twitter a while ago. He said it's just it's a cardinal offense that they didn't mention anybody, the mainstream bloggers or websites mention that Conjurer's got their release today. Check that one out. Meyer is going to be good. I know I'm aware of 2 of the singles that are off of that, and that one's definitely one that you're going to want to check out because if you're into metal, Conjurer is they've got a real. It might be a little bit harsh for some of you because I do realize we've still got a pretty diverse band of metal listeners to this podcast. But do check that one out. If you like your metal a little harsher than some, then Conjurer is definitely going to do it. But they always do everything good. The mix is always good. The production effort, I like their stuff. On to other things. Crippled Black Phoenix, they put out one today. It's Horrific on Horrifics. You might want to check this one out because of this reason. No song sounds like it's by the same band. It sounds like a compilation put together by some drunk guy on a Tuesday night. It's actually really good. I don't hear anything bad about it. It's weird. There'll be one that kind of has like a groovy, like a southern rock kind of a sound to it, and then another one sounds straight up like European metal. It's back and forth. I don't know. So Crippled Black Phoenix, yeah. If you're in an experimental mood, get it up there. Their stuff is all on YouTube as well. All right. One other big one here. Hold on. Judas Priest. They've got out their latest one today. Firepower. We talked about this one previously as well. Looking ahead to 2018 back in January when we're talking about what we really kind of wanted to look ahead to. Judas Priest, that one's out today. Firepower, which is great. It sounds, if you like Judas Priest back in the late 80s, it's mid to late 80s, it sounds just like that. So it sounds like, ooh, they're catching a second wind. I think they're getting ready to shut it down. So this one, if you are a fan of classical metal, this is one for you. Judas Priest, Firepower, pick it up. Ministry's got their new one out. I don't like political shit. I get bombarded by politics every day, all the time. And I get it. Ministry said, no, it's not reflective of our current times. This is not in any way biographical. This is a fictional blah, 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 blah. It is. It's called Americant with 3 Ks on the where the C would be. It's a political record. If that's your thing, and if you like ministry, go ahead and do your thing. That's fine. Nobody's going to shut you down for liking music. Otherwise, Rage Against the Machine would have never got off the ground. This one's really, really interesting here. If you actually ever really checked out Alter Bridge, which, and I know that's not, some people say, well, they're too mainstream, except for the fact that not a lot of people even know who they are. Their lead singer, Miles Kennedy, put out his solo record, and that dropped today. It's called Year of the Tiger. If you're a fan of rock and roll, and I'm not talking the metal portion of this necessarily, although metal is obviously a derivative of rock, and we talk about rock acts all the time. But it might be worth checking out. Some of the lyrical work that he does, and I don't know. I didn't do enough research to know if it's a dude from Alter Bridge, the guitar player that actually did the guitar parts for it. But I think the production value kind of speaks for itself. It's not bad. I would say check it out. I really, if you're into kind of this resurgence of bands trying to sound like rock and roll from a long time ago, not even a long time ago, because that makes it sound bad. If you're a fan of rock and roll, check it out. Miles Kennedy is Myles Kennedy. He's the front man for Alter Bridge. Year of the Tiger. Twitching Tongues put out one today, and I really only like it because of the name of the record, and it's Gaining Purpose Through Passionate Hatred. I would go ahead and definitely, if you're feeling a little angsty for the day, might get your day started with Twitching Tongues. So that's good enough there. I will move along now. Silke, could I ask for a refill on the...
Yep. Yeah,
there we go, on the Bullet Rye. I get a little thirsty doing this on my own. It's over on top of the bar. All right, so what we have going on in the next third and final portion of the show, the MMA portion. All right, let's get into this. UFC 25, it looks like they are really, really working to try to put that one together. And as well they should, because as we know, thank you, hon. So what happens is when they're putting these events together and they're trying to make something that they believe will sell very, very well for all the fans out there, they usually start this months in advance. It's a long process. You got to let the not just the fighters. I'm not even talking about trying to allow them to kind of get their camp and everything else. You got to think of the marketing effort. They've got to sell these fights. They've got to do all this stuff. Well, 225 is coming up in June, and it's going to be at the United Center in Chicago, and it's expected to be a really, really big fight. Well, what you're going to see at this one, they had announced, and this one is going to probably be, well, this will be the main event on the card, and that's where you got Robert Whittaker taking on Yoel Romero. That's what they're working on. It's not signed, but that would be the fight. That would be the fight for the middleweight championship. These two fought once before. Whittaker won by a split decision. Really close fight. And you could make the argument you might have thought that Romero might have won. I don't think he did enough to win. That's my thoughts on it. But clearly, these two guys are at the top of the food chain at the middleweight division. Michael Bisping is not it. Luke Rockhold is not it. You've got these two guys, and then way back, the rest of, the top five. Whittaker versus Romero for 225. That's going to be a good one. And, again, that's going to be in June. That's when kind of the viewership kind of starts to drop off a little bit. A lot of MMA fans start thinking, well, I've got other summer shit going on. And we might be in that boat, except we're not going camping on June 9th.
That's right.
Right now. That's right.
That is right.
Also, on... the card they're trying to work on 225, and you might be saying, "Why are you talking about 225?" There are no fights this weekend, at least on the UFC. So,
really?
We got nothing. So, also on 225, they're working on Alistair Overeem, who I like to think of as Francis Ngannou's uppercut dummy. He's going to be fighting Curtis Blades at 225. This is where we see if Overeem is done. I thought he was done before, and then he kind of had a resurgence, started knocking fools out, and then he started getting knocked out again. Heavyweight division, you just never know. But he's going to be fighting Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades has a tendency to fight really boring once in a while, so we'll see. It is going to be obviously a fight between striking versus some wrestling. So 225 is shaping up to be really, really good. Here's one that concerned me a little bit because I like Tyron Woodley, I used to like Tyron Woodley, until Tyron Woodley started thinking the whole world is against him. started kind of implying that some things are as they are because he's black.
Oh, yeah.
It's because he fights a little bit. Well, okay, let's back it up a little bit. If he's fighting Stephen Thompson, he might be one of the most boring fighters in all of the sport. He has a huge overhand right that he throws. He knocked out Robbie Lawler with, but he was content to dance around and get a majority draw against Stephen Thompson. Fought him again, got the win finally because Stephen Thompson apparently didn't want to fight either. These two guys, let's never ever make that one a rematch. But my problem is Tyron Woodley. There's some word out there that, well, the word is from him that he might be training Floyd Mayweather to fight MMA against Conor McGregor, maybe.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Which
ambitious,
yeah. Well, the direct quote from Tyron Woodley, the welterweight champion that never ever defends his belt anymore ever, says Conor is not that great a wrestler. He's not like a world class jiu-jitsu guy. So if he can't land one of those kicks on Floyd, he can't take him down. So Tyron Woodley has been apparently, quote unquote, according to sources, training Floyd Mayweather on how to fight MMA. The only thing I could relate to this, maybe, the analogy I could use, is that if you know what a guitar looks like, and there is a Led Zeppelin tribute band going to be playing, and it's like, oh, their guitar player can't show up, and they're playing in 3 days. You got somebody like, that's cool. I'll show this guy how to play. That's the analogy I would use.
Yeah.
If you've been a boxer your whole life, there is no fight south of the hips except for foot movement.
Right.
You're not having to worry about the takedown. You're not having to worry about leg kicks. You're not having to worry about any of that nonsense.
Right.
So to think you can take a guy who has had 50 professional boxing matches in his lifetime and train him, to be able to take on Conor McGregor at some point, it's ridiculous. And Conor even probably apparently agreed with it. There's a great photo, which I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can get Brandon to put this one up for this week's cover photo for the podcast, where Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather are in a clinch. Is when they'd fought, back last summer. So anyway, and Conor had used that one in his looks like Instagram post. Says, I am happy for Floyd and his recent announcement that he is out of these current fight negotiations. It is the reason I never seeked the rematch in the first place. And he's talking about boxing. I was happy for him in retirement. My game is a very unforgiving one. It's not like other games. I understand completely him staying retired. I will now carry on in my negotiations to see where it goes. Have a great retirement, Junior. Now come and give your old man a hug for old time's sake. I'm proud of you, son. Yours truly, Senior.
That sounds like him.
Because it's Conor McGregor. That's exactly right.
Right.
So, yeah. Is it something that's ever going to happen? No, I don't think so. I don't think if you're Floyd Mayweather, you're not going to draw the $100 million that they got on the boxing match by going over and fighting MMA style. Although I will say this, money bridges all things. And if it turns out that, well, you know what, Floyd might be enticed by money, we already know that Conor can be bought. So maybe.
Money talks.
Maybe, yeah. All right. Other things going on. Well, this one's just a travesty, and that is that Johny Hendricks apparently setting his sights on a weight class change. I don't want to get too deep on this because I think Johny Hendricks probably needs to either accept his role at middleweight or retire. He's wanting to move back down to welterweight. He went to the Performance Institute the UFC has, and he now thinks he can go back to 170 again, make weight, and make another push for the title, which, by the way, Johny Hendricks, you can't because Tyron Woodley has the belt, and Tyron Woodley will not fight until the UFC threatens to strip him of his belt. That's there's no two ways about it.
Yeah. It's kind of smart. I mean...
Well, because you keep getting all this endorsement money as
Right.
a champ outside of the octagon. I know people are going to say, "Oh, you can't get endorsement money because you have the whole thing going on with the Reebok deal." No. They get endorsements outside the octagon. The Reebok deal is purely for the week leading up to a fight, during fight week, and all the press and everything in the octagon. That's it. These guys can pursue stuff outside of the octagon. The problem is nobody really cares if they're not in there fighting. So, but nonetheless, though, Johny Hendricks says he's going to make that weight again at 170. The older you get, the harder that weight cut gets to be, and the guy already couldn't do it years ago, and that's why they moved him up to middleweight. He looked good in his first fight, his debut. I think it was against Hector Lombard or something like that, and then went on to lose 2 in a row. Mm-hmm. He's a small guy for middleweight. He's not exactly a big guy for welterweight, for that matter. But again, he's the wrestlers for some reason. They have this weird, it works out great for them, this overhand right. It almost is a windmilling, like weird, just throw caution to the wind. Overhand right they can throw. Woodley throws it. Hendricks throws it. Guys like that, Nelson threw it. I mean, guys like that, that's what they do. They wind up and they throw it back and they throw it, and it goes over the top of what should be considered a pretty good block if you're a normal striker. And that's what makes them a little bit weird. But people that are able to train against that overhand right's not going to work. You don't have to worry about a straight jab from a wrestler. You just generally don't. You don't have to worry about. You do have to worry about hooks if they can start getting inside, but it's a very different fight dynamic. The whole way most smart wrestlers utilize the striking in order to set up a takedown and get the thing to the ground. But nonetheless, though, Johny Hendricks, give up on the 170 thing, guy. You're not going to make it again. And if you can, you're going to be a shell of yourself. You're not going to be able to hydrate correctly. It's a bad road for Johny Hendricks at this point. So knock it the fuck off. Okay, let's talk about this one. And this is one that actually, now that I'm thankful that what was I calling you earlier? Super groupie? Is that what I was calling you?
Yes.
That Silke is able to sit in here last minute tonight. Your favorite fighter is who?
Her name is Rose.
Rose Namajunas.
That's right, Namajunas.
Who is, by the way, the strawweight champion in the UFC women's division.
That's right.
And, so she's going to be fighting UFC 223. That's coming up April 7th at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn.
Oh my
They're going back to
can't
fight
wait.
in New York again.
Mm-hmm.
1 week before my birthday, I might start celebrating birth week that
That's
night,
right.
maybe.
You should.
But nonetheless, though, she's going to be, it is going to be a rematch, which rematches, I'm a little bit, it depends. I'm on a very case-by-case basis. If you have defended your title numerous times and almost broke a record for the number of title defenses like Joanna Jędrzejczyk did, I think that, you give her a rematch. I think that's fair. If it's just the fact that the UFC knows they're going to be able to make a pile of money, I'm not a huge fan of that. I think you have to demand or deserve a rematch. I think that Joanna does, even though she got shut the fuck down in the first round back when she'd fought against Rose the first time. So anyway, it is that one, by the way, that was at Madison Square Garden back at UFC 217. So despite that loss, and all things said, and Rose Namajunas looked like a beast a couple of fights ago. She's done nothing but get better. Well, already odds makers are putting Jędrzejczyk as the favorite in that fight. Not even the champ. And after getting beat down, I mean, she caught a really bad left hook on that one. I understand, but nonetheless, though, it is weird that Joanna is the favorite again. If it wasn't for the fact that Rose Namajunas doesn't keep getting better and better with every fight, and I think that Joanna has peaked. I don't know. I think that's a bad move by Vegas. I think there's going to be some money made that night, and it's not going to be for folks voting for Jędrzejczyk or betting for Jędrzejczyk. So.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I'm looking forward to that fight. I really can't wait, and I'd be sure to wear my T-shirt that you gave me.
Okay.
But Rose is, I don't know, but she just seems like such a humble human being.
Yeah.
But wise, beyond her age. I mean, I wish I could have been that focused when I was her age. She is so young, and her fighting style is so good. She's so little, but she has so much power. You don't think she's strong, but she is strong, and she can kick so high and just knock somebody out and then just jump on him.
Well, and what was on display, and you know, at UFC 217 was her striking was on display. That's not even the strongest part of her game.
Right.
Again, she's another one of those. She's a wrestler, and a great overhand, you know, set of throws, and that's what caught Joanna on the one of them,
Right.
and knocked her senseless on that and dropped her, you know, and then was able to jump in. At that point, once Joanna got laid out, I knew that fight is over, because it's going to now get into the ground where that's Rose's territory. Joanna just never recovered. She was knocked loopy. She tapped for strikes and doesn't even remember tapping for strikes.
Right.
And claims that she didn't do it. Well, let's just go back and
Right.
let's go to the tape, you know,
replay
and there it is.
yeah.
Like, oh, there's the tap, you
Right.
know.
You knew what you were doing, but at the same time, I do believe a lot of it has to do with the mental state of mind that
Yeah.
somebody has. And I think Rose really is one of those people that just doesn't care enough what's going on around her. She's just so focused on what she is doing right now and being her best and becoming more and better. And I think that, you know, her opponents are, you know, intrigued by everything that's going on around them rather than focusing on them.
Yeah, no,
themselves,
that's good commentary. Good job. Good job. All right, see, there you go. All right, better than just.
She's my favorite. I mean, she just looks like she is like she comes across as such a tender flower, and that is not just because of her name. I mean, she's so little, but at the same time, you hear her speak, and you kind of get to know her a little bit, and she's just so wise. Like I said, I mean, I wish I would have been that focused when I was her age.
Yeah.
And
Well, and speaking of favorite fighters, so then looking ahead, and I don't know if Edson Barboza's still. He's one of my favorites, but they announced they're trying to make it work. Fight between him and Kevin Lee coming up, probably somewhere around UFC 224, 225, maybe later. But nonetheless, though, that one's going to be a really good fight, and I think that's for Edson Barboza. I think it's going to be a terrible fight for Kevin Lee. So we'll see what happens with that. Time for us to start moving into the big wrap-up here as get ready to get into our weekend and our Friday night and all that fun nonsense. Let's see. Let's go. We always go each week. Brandon and I go with our picks, which, by the way, hopefully Brandon's back next week and we can get this whole technology thing figured out, because some of you were complaining that the sound quality last week wasn't good. We got to do what we got to do. We're not going to stop doing this show because we've come too far to knock it off now. But, you know, if Brandon's not able to jump in and we're not able to get the thing, you know, done on a Friday night, then so be it. We'll figure out a way.
that's right. It's
All
only
right.
for a little while.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move to the picks. What's your picks for drinking?
I am going to stick with my drink with the Russian. What is it called?
The re-election fixer. No. It's a White Russian.
A White Russian. I'm going to stick with that. Mm-hmm.
You know, if you put a splash of Coca-Cola on the top, they call it a Colorado Bulldog.
Oh, well, I can do that. No problem there.
We don't need more sugar in our lives. I'm going to go with standby of Bullet Rye and Budweiser, because drink some mid-grade whiskey and cheap beer. Let's see. As far as listening goes, I'm going to have to go ahead and check out what's going on. Again, Alter Bridge, the lead singer of Alter Bridge, has got out a new release today, and I might have to listen to this. It's Miles Kennedy, Year of the Tiger, official videos out. I don't know how much of the whole thing is out, but you might want to look into that.
I got a chance to listen to it a little bit, and I really like it.
Yeah,
I really do.
See,
Yep.
you like the rock and roll.
I-
It starts
I-
working its way into metal, you're a little out. but
Yes, yes. I
Well, you're not
did
as-
like that.
You're not as angsty as I am. All right.
No.
And then as far as MMA goes, there's nothing going on this weekend. So I think probably my pick will be to show you the UFC Austin event, if that's on Fight Pass.
That'll be great.
You know, so maybe we'll
That'd be
just do
great.
that. All right, that's going to do it for us. I know it's a little bit shorter than we usually aim for, but nonetheless, that's what we've got, because we don't have the witty repartee of one Brandon Bras joining us on the show this evening. So nonetheless, though, I hope all things are well up in the wilds of
Wyoming.
not Mongolia. Yeah, Wyoming.
That's right.
I get Wyoming and Mongolia so mixed up.
I get Wyoming and Wisconsin mixed up. But we miss you, Brandon.
I like mine better. Mongolia, Wyoming. Same.
Right.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Folks, have a great weekend. With their internet issues, they're having it up in Wyoming. This may not be posted until Saturday or Sunday. Fingers crossed. But nonetheless, though, enjoy your weekend. Grab life by the balls and make it yours. No, that's not a good one?
No, that is very good.
Okay, there you go.
I agree with that one.
Get a fucking T-shirt made. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for us. Silke, thanks for sitting in with us. Our what was I calling you earlier? The mega groupie?
That's right.
Like that? Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Going to go ahead and let you get into your weekend, and we will check in with you next weekend on the Mead Metal and MMA podcast. And enjoy your week.